Welcome back to the Big Three, everybody. Today is a conversation with Dave Stone from Not EV Altadena. He's got an incredible story about the Eaton fire that affected the Altadena community, but also his efforts to help restore the car community by telling the stories of those who were affected by the fire. It's a great conversation. Let's get right into it. Please welcome to the show, Dave Stone. Dave.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me in. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
First podcast.
First podcast?
Ever?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's
With
you're
you
a white
guys.
guy with a beard. That can't be your
I
first
know.
podcast.
My first one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
For our listeners not in the know, there was a massive devastating fire in LA and Altadena and the Palisades a couple months ago. And Dave is leading the charge to help some of these people that lost their amazing rare cars in the fire to help rebuild and kind of gain back some of the stuff that they lost, right?
Yeah.
Am I doing that justice? Or?
Yeah. It's, some cars, but it's about, I think more psychological ownership of what happened and, helping to empower them, to help rebuild.
The organization's called Not EV, which is on his shirt. Does anyone think that you're like an anti-EV?
No, it's weird because I do drive an electric. So I'll explain where this comes
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that good?
Yeah.
So after the fire, the EPA came through and they had to mark all of the cars. So they knew how to dispose of them. So all of the gas-powered cars were tagged not EV. And the electric cars were tagged with a blue bolt, a lightning bolt. And then after the lithium pack was taken out of the electric, they took a white can and they sprayed over top of the blue bolt to note that it had been taken. It was pretty obvious that it had been taken because they cut the lithium pack out underneath the bottom and a little tractor with a claw takes the car, flips it upside down.
Wow.
And the lithium pack is laying right there. So I was like, oh, clearly they had taken it. And then, so yeah, that's how they were marked. And so if you're in my neighborhood, this is like funnier there.
Right.
So you leave and they're like, oh, that guy really he got out of a Tesla. And it doesn't make any sense. But inside of our neighborhood, it's like, oh, wow. Like
Hundreds of cars with not EV on it.
I would probably say close to 5,000 cars.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know the Highway Patrol noted 3,900 cars, but I think they started a little bit late coming in. So I'd probably say closer to 5,000 cars.
And some of these are very rare, very old cars.
I mean, yeah, there's what's really interesting about the neighborhood is that neighbors 2 or 3 houses down next door didn't know what everybody had. And when the fire came and it took down everyone's fences and everyone's homes, suddenly all the cars were exposed. So after the fire, some of the most obvious things to see were like the amount of cars that were out there and chimneys. So you saw burned cars and chimneys everywhere. So, there's somebody like, I had no idea he had 2 or 3 or 4. Right. I had no idea this and that and that. And so it was just car country forever. But there was no car meetup, group car meetup. There's car clubs that would cruise around and meet. But like everybody was leaving with their cars all the time. Or they're just keeping them locked up behind, working on them, So like blocks knew about blocks, but the neighborhood didn't know about the neighborhood. Right.
Yeah.
No one knew about Carl's Pantera. Right.
You live in, how long have you been living in Altadena?
Okay. So I live actually 2 blocks shy of Altadena. I'm in North Pasadena. When you live where I live, your whole world is up there, right? My kids in school there, your restaurant, all your folks are there, right? I run and walk that entire neighborhood every single day. The closest house for me is about a half a mile. And after that, it's just gone. The night the fire came, see it on the hillside. It was so big. It looked a lot closer than it was. I thought it was like a few blocks away. And knowing what had just happened in the Palisades, friends who lost homes there, I was like, okay, they kind of broke it down. You have like an hour for every mile. So I see the fire, tell my wife and kids. My neighbor next door called me and told me. And then I banged on all my neighbors' doors to tell them, fire, fire, fire. And then I stayed, and where the fire started, it made way more sense for it to take out where I live. So I have a place up in Ojai, right? And so I was there for Thomas Fire, and I just figured out my threshold to be around fire then, I think. So I stayed, and it was super windy. It sounded like a 747 was landing on your lawn. And then when it would stop, I'd go outside, hose down some more. But I knew if there was a fire 4 houses down, that it was going to come, right? So I just stayed, and I had my car parked with all my stuff in it, keys in it, which is like, let me put all of my, all the stuff I need and also leave my keys in there.
So your family had left, but you decided to stay with the house in order to protect it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, to protect the house. If you, gentlemen, if you want to do that, you have to tell your family you're coming, by the way.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like, hey, I'm right behind you. I'm right behind you. I'm right behind you. I wasn't going to come.
Yeah.
I was going to stay.
Yeah.
Can we talk more about that? I mean, that decision to stay. Is that okay if we delve into that a little bit? Because, I live in Santa Monica. I was pretty safely tucked. I mean, it was scary that night when the fire first started on the Palisades, but it was a much different story for where I was at.
There's a lot of city to go through.
A lot of city to go through. You still, but I'm watching the news that night and you see news stories, news crews talking to people staying in their homes, and I'm just going like, get out of there,
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah,
just bewildered. Honestly, a little bewildered.
There wasn't a decision to stay. It's not like, oh, should I stay or not? Like, look, I know the people you're talking about who get interviewed and they're in that. It's like they're blah, 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 right? I would have stayed. I have an exit too, right? I'm not on a cul-de-sac, right? But there wasn't like, you're not thinking, should I stay or not? Like, I'm staying. I mean, a lot of it is like, I didn't really come for much. That's my house. I worked really hard to accomplish what I've been able to accomplish. And I wasn't going to let a fire take that from my family, right? So I was like, there really wasn't a decision. I'm just like, I'm staying.
You're just going to do everything you could up until the last second.
Correct.
To save it.
And right until that threshold hits, then you're hopping in the car. But everything up to that, you're going outside, you're watering down property, watering down the house.
Yeah.
I can respect that.
So the wind started that morning, right?
Yeah,
and that was like really at 4 a.m. and I have massive trees around my house. So it wakes me up. So I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I go to work, see what's going on in the Palisades.
Were you already thinking, because I know when you live in those areas, it's always kind of like, oh shit, it's fire season. The wind's picking up today. Like, were you already thinking that in the morning? Were you like, this is something to think about?
Because then it would really dry, right?
Yeah.
We live here, right? It was super dry. Yeah, you're afraid. I'm glad I just got my trees thinned, right? Because they're going to fall on my house, right?
Right.
But it wasn't until the Palisades that you just said something that like, oh, I'm so far where you live. I'm so far away from, how could it be me, right? Like, that's what 99.99% of the people I talk to in Altadena say. Like, I've lived here for 40 years, 30 years. We've seen fire up on the hillside. Like, I live so far away. I'm so far in, it would be impossible if it would get to my house.
Yeah.
Like, that is the most common thing. So even when you say that, you know what I mean? Like, just like, if the fire's going to come, it's going to come, right? The wind was insane that night, right?
It was crazy.
I just pushed it. There was no stopping it. So I got up really early because the wind started, right? So the point, I did walk away for a little bit, for a few hours. I was up for about 26 hours. I was exhausted.
Jeez.
It started then, went 4 o'clock in the morning, woke me up. I go to work, I come back, fire starts. I stay up all night long, right? And it's like, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, I'm so tired. The wind's not stopped. And I feel like I'm going to pass out and fall asleep. Tapped. So at that point, it turned from being there's scared and fear, right? And there's two different things, right? And I was like, okay, I fear for my death. Like, I should leave. So I took my, drove my car, went out to Ojai and dropped some stuff off. And then was there for like a minute and just turned around and came back. I thought I was going to go fall asleep. And I think I laid down for a few minutes and I was gone for
so
maybe
wired.
4 hours. I came back. Yeah, totally wired, just jacked up.
When you were coming back, remind us, like, what was the state of the containment at that
I mean, there
point,
was
and what
zero
seeing?
containment, like driving away.
And this is what, 5 a.m.?
I drove out probably 6:30, 7 in the morning. Yeah. And you could just see Altadena on fire. Just like, the black smoke. And just could not believe in my mirror what I saw.
So before the fire even
I
happened,
appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah,
it's so for what it's worth, I haven't told my story at all. What I'm doing for Altadena isn't about me, right? And I'm telling the stories of the people that lost their cars, right? Documenting the Eaton fire through the cars that were there and the people that lost them. And I didn't lose my home. I didn't lose my cars. So my story and what happened to me and the right, is has always to me been secondary to what it is that I'm doing. And maybe because every time I start telling, I start crying. So you guys are going to make me cry today. I apologize. It's a lot, and a lot I probably haven't even processed yet. And then just going through the destruction, everything, you know. And
we really appreciate you opening up on this.
You're welcome.
Before the fire even started, though, you were involved in the car scene in Altadena?
No, I mean, here's the thing. Like, I wasn't, right? So, which is me being here with you guys today. It's going to be, you know, there's a group of people who I blame for what I've done, right?
Okay.
So, a few years ago, I was telling you earlier that like my son was into Fortnite, the algorithm switched and turned him into like a sneakerhead, right?
Yeah.
And then the algorithm changed him into a Miata freak, right?
Mm-hmm.
from Donut, right? So he just got really into cars, right? And I've always encouraged my son Holden, and he like stalks you guys, you know, and like shows up, you know, every time there's something, he's going to be there, right? So he's always just showed me your channel. And so that was probably 2 years ago. So I take him to car meets, everywhere, the Peterson, like, you know, I love the time in my car with my kid. I didn't have a car, right? Everything I've always done is for my family. I've never really taken care of or bought something for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not, you know, it's like my priority is my wife and my kids. So, so the Wednesday of the fire, when I went up on my Vespa to go help a friend check on their house, right? I got lost because the houses are gone and you're like, where's their street? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
So
points of reference.
Yeah. I pulled out my phone, got off my Vespa and pulled out my phone to like see where I was, and was like, oh, there's streets like 4 houses that way, but there are no homes. And there was a burned out, I thought it was a Miata, but it was a Z3.
Oh.
In the garage. I took a photo of it and to send to him. And then I saw another burned car and I was like, oh man, that's really, and to see that is like, it's jarring, right? And this was fresh after the fire. And then I stayed there and helped put out fire and did the thing or whatever. And that was intense, and then left. And then the next morning I got up on my Vespa again, and my son, there was on the S2000 subreddit, there was one that was parked in a grocery outlet parking lot right next to Aldi's, and Aldi's caught on fire, gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the subreddit was like, save the S2000. So as I'm like going around stomping on fire, doing my thing and checking on homes, giving like bad news, good news, mostly bad news, my son is like, Dad, you've got to go save the S2000. This is what you do. You get a knife and you cut the top open and then you put it in neutral. And I'm like, my God, like what other internet are you on? And so it's just not Donut. I got to go. Yeah. I should probably check that history.
Oh, that's from the stealing cars episode.
Yeah.
Which we've done multiple
But
times.
So I guess on the
How to get away
subreddit, they
from
were
the
like
cops.
saying like, if anybody's there, this is how to do it.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, geez. And I'm like, trust me, I know how to steal a car. So am I rude all the way through? And like, I watch Elliott Middle School collapse in. And it's just like, it's insane what you're seeing, right?
Yeah.
So the car was parked just up from the Elliott Middle School off Lake. And then so I went up and checked on it and took photos and was able to report to my son, and then reported back to the subreddit
That it was still fine.
S2000 had made it. It wasn't melted or anything. And I don't know. And eventually it was gone. So if you're that person,
Someone else stole it.
Yeah. So if you're the S2000 person, hit me up. I'll tell your story.
So when you're driving around in your Vespa, it's still crazy smoke all around. Are you wearing like full PPE or?
No, I had I had some masks left over from COVID, and the only one I could find was one that was my wife's, and I knew it because there was like makeup on the inside. So I was wearing that, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think I didn't even grab gloves, which like would have been helpful. Just like, no, I just like hop on and go.
Is there any kind of like worry about the chemicals that were being released in the smoke?
Yeah, I think at the time, I mean, I was in a burned out garage, just like, you know, huffing God knows what. There was like 3 propane tanks that were sitting there. And the question was like, have they already like gassed out, or are they going to explode and then blow up my friend's house? And so what do we do? Right. I was like, well, I guess you just kind of walk into it and you put the fire out with a fire extinguisher and buckets of water. Like this. So, and just like taking on a lot of things. Right. Because, you know, if it explodes, you're going to die, right? Because you're there putting it out, I guess. But then like the other people there who are trying to put this fire out next to this home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you going to do? Just like walk, everybody run for your lives, and then the house is all burn on fire, catch on fire. Like, you just, like I said, there's not a like, oh, should I do this or not? You know, but also like at that time when you're in those moments, and you guys have probably been in something like this in your life where there's like, it's pretty traumatic. At least for me, like time slows down.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize how much time you actually have.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah,
So
That's crazy.
yeah.
You
would do the same. You guys would do the same thing.
on one hand, the fire is like raging at you with these 60-mile-an-hour winds. But on the other hand, you're saying that you have more time than you think.
Yeah.
To like save stuff, spray stuff down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, you do. And like, there was like this like gallows humor that was going on too. You know, I looked at him, I was like, how are your meetings today? He's like, I didn't go to any meetings. Like, you know, and like everything slows down and like you're having these like interesting, weird conversations. I remember their pool, like you had to go all the way up their driveway, right? And the garage is next to them. It was all 3/4 put down. The fire department would come, put it out, run out of water and leave, right? And so it wasn't all the way out. But their pool was like all the way up the driveway and the back left of their house. And I was like, why is your pool so far away? Like, why would you put it all the way over here? Well, we need the water over here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. I think in the moment, like, yeah, I wrote this piece at the time too about, and it was, I mean, pretty heavy, you know what I mean? Like what you're inhaling, if you think about what you're inhaling, you're like, this is trees that were a couple thousand years old up in the redwoods, right? These are mostly homes built out of redwood, old redwood growth, right? And then carved into these beautiful homes in the early 1900s. And inside of those homes are like the couch you got handed down from grandma, right? Family heirlooms, right? So I started like seeing and imagining the things that were burning, that were coming through, that I was like in as like, I'd like honor and respect that stuff, right? And it may sound weird and bizarre, but as it went into my body, I was like, this isn't just like smoke. This isn't like that. This is someone's love and life and passion and history. You know, I know a guy, Kevin, he lost his 57 Chevy, right? It was his mom's car. She passed away 4 years ago. And when I look at Kevin's photos, when I was there with him on his lot, I didn't see the car. Like he lost his house, everything, but there was a trunk that his relatives brought over from, I think it's Hungary. And that was like the trunk you would have brought over, right?
Oh, wow.
That was in his basement. The basement is gone. That trunk is gone.
Wow.
So the 57 Chevy's his mom's car passed, and he was supposed to get it to Portland, never brought it up to his brother. But when I see the car, I think of his trunk, and I think of that. So what I inhaled, yeah, probably bad stuff. I had my lead tested. There's no lead in my blood.
Oh, that's good.
I am
Yeah.
unleaded.
Unleaded.
Yeah. Sorry, I was dad joke. You'll tell jokes like that.
One day, hopefully.
Yeah, there's no lead in it. I don't think they've really found much. There's in the soil, there's those type of issues. But yeah, I started to like sort of respect what I was inhaling, knowing what it was that I was inhaling.
That's
crazy
to think about.
I can't even articulate how it's like almost an esoteric way of thinking about this. And I guess like how you get through it when you're doing stuff like that too. I don't know.
Yeah, I posted that on, I think I put that on Reddit and no one got me. Like no one, they were like, what dude, that's a bad idea. Do not listen to what this guy is saying. I'm like, no,
Right,
I
that's not
probably inhaled someone's sweater that they love.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's good and to go outside and just like huff it up. I'm just saying that's what it was. And I feel like that, just like it's how I see things, right? And like how I just live my life. It's like, it's not that, it's something else, right?
Yeah.
So the stories you asked me earlier about, was I in the car culture Altadena, right? And I was like, well, it's kind of Donut's fault, right? And Danny, I read his story in the LA Times, came out January 26. He had a Corvette that he was his dream car, right?
That's Danny.
Danny.
Yeah, I want to
Yeah,
hear
yeah.
more about his story.
So another one of it, I saw him. I was like, bro, it's you. Like, this is all your fault. You wrecked my life. I was showing up to everything to do this. And so yeah, he had an 86 Corvette, red, as he says, peanut butter interior, 4-speed. And it was his dream car. And he had it for a week. Transmission was out, never drove it.
Oh, wow.
He's a car guy, sold blocks car guys, right? And they're all working on stuff all the time. And the fire came and took it, right?
Wow.
Never drove it.
Dang.
He lost a couple other cars, his house, his dad bought way back in the days and lived there with his mom. And at the end of his story in the Times, he said, I know I'm never going to drive this car, but I had a dream and that's better than most men. And I was like, that's super sweet. What a sweet man. But that is the worst ending to like any story I've ever read in my life. Like, it's a terrible ending, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not like, and the writer, I was like, yeah, that's his job. It's like LA Times, whatever. And like, I was like, that's a horrible ending. Like, maybe I can change that ending, right? And so I wear the shirt and on the back it says, I love you, Altadena. I love your dream. And every post that I do, I always put that. because it was in reference to Danny before I even met him. And, you know, my next door neighbor works for the LA Times, and I could have been like, hey, what's that reporter's number? Let me find, you know, Danny. But like, I also like wasn't in my right mind at this time. You know, I was like, I don't know if I am still, but, so I was like, you know what, maybe I can take photos of people in their cars and tell their story and raise money to help them get their car back. And, so because I read this thing, I set off, right? And I didn't have a map. I'm not checking off everywhere I'm going. I'm for leaving my house on my feet. And I know every block, everything, right? Like when COVID hit, I told my wife I'm going to walk every street in Altadena. It lasted so long, I did it 100 times over, right? And I talk to everybody I meet all the time. Like if you come on a walk with me, you're bummed because I'll stop every fourth house. And like my kids won't come with me. They're like, this is the worst, Dad. Like thought we were going on a walk. So I set off and I just started, you know, going and just taking photographs. And I have a nice camera. I left it at home. I've taken photos my whole life, not professionally, you know, I don't write professionally. And I just brought my phone, my Apple telephone, as I joke. And I just started capturing everything there. Right. And then I saw this guy standing out and I started to publish some stuff. I think the first one I did was February 9th. And I saw this guy standing out in front of his lot. I found out with his sister and I said, hey man, my name's Dave. And I take photos of burned cars and I tell people stories. That's it. His feed is called Not EV. And if you say that, people are like, oh, you know, because they see Not EV everywhere on all these cars. And I'm going through my stuff, my images, and people, and I told the story about a guy named Kenny Garand who lost his Cadillac. And shout out to Kenny. And once he saw Kenny's piece, I did him and his Cadillac, Kendrick song. Danny was like, come on, let's go. Right. And the reason I say shout out to Kenny, because I told his story, so many folks trusted me. Right. And I appreciate that. So I went on and like it was like a joke. It was like a burned out Fast and Furious on his lot. It was all of his neighbors, all of his dudes sitting around, and everything's gone. Like the weight set's cooked, you know, like and by the way, that pin on their weight set was like really low too. Like those guys, well, like mine would have been, or not even have one up on top. Like so, in the Impala, 4-door Impala burned out, Pontiac burned out, truck burned out, and this like cooked looking Corvette thing. Like cars with a lot of glass, like it's just a motor, right? And you can see that ghost of it. And so I thought I already found the Corvette house. And so he starts telling me, it was my Corvette. I never drove it. And I was like, okay, well, He's like, no, I never drove it. And I was like, oh man, did you read that article in the LA Times? And he was like, that's me. And I was like, oh bro, this is what I did all because of you, you know, like stopped my whole life. And so I was the only GoFundMe I created was for Danny, you know, and through the GoFundMe and these shirts that I sell, I was able to raise him some money, and some other guys pitched in. And somebody also read that same story all the way in Maryland and had the exact same car. Oh, and he'd just been like tweaking on this car forever, like just did an amazing job on that build. And then like hit him up and he sold it to us for like a lovely discount. Wow, and then got it shipped out here.
Amazing.
Covered. Thank God. Yeah, the shipping company, they're in the neighborhood too. They're like, yeah, we paid extra just to make sure it was covered. Like worst case. It falls off. We got Danny's car back.
That's so awesome. And the reveal of giving it to him in the parking lot was so sweet too.
Yeah, it was awesome. And yeah, it was. And so it's really hard, I found out, to raise money for people, right? Especially right when the fire kicked, like a lot of sympathy about, right? But like 2 months later, 3 months later, you know, people are, I get it though too. Like how much money can you give and how long is this thing going to last? You know, like it's going to last a while, right? But the one thing I think I've been able to do with the Not EV feed is to build community. Lauren, who lost her R32, right?
No.
Now one of 4,999, right? And Blue, right? She lost it. One of the first stories I told, she went and found the exact same one, right? The slant nose we took to the donut event at Peterson, right? Yeah. And that was an 85. Carl bought another one. He got another slant nose. Another guy lost his Mustang coupe.
That was the one that was completely melted with like, I remember like it was an aluminum block engine. So it had just like, it looked like someone threw just like silver paint on the ground. Just like this splatter of
aluminum just like dripping out. You know, there's this 240 I saw that was parked like on a slant. All the aluminum just like melted out of the pipes in the back and it's just like coming down.
It almost looks like an art car.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really bizarre.
No, there's a dark beauty to it, you know? And I would start calling my burn buddies because I'm out on my walk and like when they start looking at, you know, like you go out there by yourself day after day after day after day, you know, like those cars become your friends and the same ones are there forever before they started getting cleaned out, you know?
Where are they all being taken? Just to a scrapyard?
Yeah. So there's one company in LA. I won't say their name, but they're taking all the cars. The process, they get them hauled off the lots. They go to one block now in Altadena, and they're running out, by the way, because all of the residential is about to be done being cleared. I think on the 9th or 10th, all of the residential in Altadena looks like it's going to be cleared.
What does that mean? Like, the lots are getting cleared out. Does that mean that the entire foundation of the home has also been like taken from the lot? Like, cleaned up means cleaned up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good question. So it depends. What do you want the core to take? I think at maybe at the peak, 131 plus crews in there, down to probably 30, maybe even less than that now. So when you walk on your lot with them, you're going to ask them, you're going to tell them like, don't take this, don't take that, like the slant nose, right? We're like, Carl was like, don't take the slant nose.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're like, keep this wall, keep that, and they'll take what you tell them to take. But in general, they're taking away all of the ash, the debris,
Gotcha.
the stuff you don't want there, right? And then I know in some cases, like, I want to keep this whatever, and then you start working back on your house again. You realize, oh shit, I should have had them take it, because you're gonna have to pay that to get hauled away anyway.
Right. Are people getting like consultations on their properties, like what elements of what remains of their home can be used again when they rebuild? Is that what's going on?
I mean, I don't know everybody's story, but like I imagine a neighbor to neighbor is really helpful, right? And I started Altadena Cars and Coffee in large part for that conversation. This is pre the core coming in, starting to clear everything. So I know people show up to the car meet every Saturday, and they're talking about this.
When you say the core, do you mean like the engineering core?
Oh, no, the Army, yeah.
The Army engineers are doing it.
They were the ones in charge,
wow,
right? And then they hired out a bunch of different
contractors
contractors to come and execute that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, impressive crew.
Interesting. Wow.
I know, just reading about this from even before the fire, but like when Los Angeles had like their redlining and certain groups of people couldn't live in certain areas of the city, a lot of African Americans and Latinos and Japanese people moved up to Altadena. And so it's kind of like a cradle of like lowrider culture.
Yeah.
So did you see any like amazing lowriders that were spared or tragic ones that were lost?
Yeah. Like all of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of it. And so yeah, like I said, it was close to 5,000, but yeah, I saw a ton, and guys who lost 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, yeah. Stashes of cars, look at each, like, regular house, not car people, 2 normie cars, right? Those are gone. And maybe they didn't take one for whatever reason, or someone was out of town on work or whatever, and that was left. But then so you're going down, you're like, oh, okay, all the cars. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, that guy lost 18 cars.
Jeez.
That person lost 12 cars. That person lost 10 cars. That person lost 7, I was at a house the other day that I went, last story I told about Ed, who passed away in his home. He's 94 and a half years old.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, heartbreaking. And he was a trucker, born, raised, and that was the only house he ever lived in. He started trucking when he was 17, and his best friend Dennis, they met 35 years ago, and he had a whole field of cars, big lot, and I know a guy lives a few doors down, and his house burned and his garage made it, and his cars made it. He had 6 cars that made it, in a garage,
wow,
that he built.
Lucky.
Yeah, I was like, how'd you tell your wife that? Whole house is gone, but cars made it.
Yay.
Good news, honey.
Yeah. So yeah, there's and you meet, so it's all separated too, right? There's like car guys, like there's a guy Gorilla. I haven't met Gorilla yet, right?
Gorilla.
Yeah. Legendary guy, lowrider guy, right? Like the guy, and lost his house, right? And so I need to go talk, and then there's Andy, the hydraulics guy, right? His house made it, but he's the guy, you know what I mean? I gotta tell his story. Ken does all of their cars, right? And so even you come up to Cars and Coffee, and I'm like, oh, hey, Jeff, do you know this guy? And like, they were all living in this neighborhood and they didn't know each other, right?
Yeah.
And so I say, like, after the fire came and took down the fences in the homes, everybody got to see each other, So I remember one guy called me up and he was like, man, how'd you do it? I'm like, how'd you do what? Like with Cars and Coffee, Altadena Cars and Coffee, how'd you do that? It's like, I drive by and there's like a Testarossa next to a lowrider. How'd you do that? And I was like, I idioted my way into this. You know what I mean? Like, I just ask people if they want to get together, and I just like curate the lot and make sure they always have a place to hang.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So all of those different cultures, right? in Altadena like get to come and hang out. So if you come to Altadena Cars and Coffee, like, which is I say like the physical manifestation of the Not EV feed, right, is Altadena Cars and Coffee. So you come and you see the neighborhood. You know what I mean? It's everybody, all different cars, all da 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 da.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's special.
I think that's really cool. There's an anecdote a while ago of like, anytime a tragedy like this happens, you really are surprised at how your neighbors come and help you. And you get to know all your neighbors, but like, why do you have to wait until that happens to get to know your neighbors and like ask them for help?
I mean, on that note, what's that atmosphere like at these Cars and Coffees where people are coming together, you know, like
Yeah.
must feel amazing.
Yeah, it does. You know, like their homes are gone, their blocks are gone, and they would all hang out at each other's houses, right?
Mhm.
And now they're not going to go and park at a dirt lot, you know? Most of them are cleared. And so it's 8 to 10 every Saturday, which is absurd. It's a lot. You know what I mean? It's every Saturday, as they say, until we collide with Mars. Like, and it could start at 7:30 and be done at 11:30. And it's just like people hanging out.
Mhm.
You know, because that's where they can come, roll up with the cars, one they pulled out, or like Danny, we got his vet back,
Mhm.
and they can all just hang out.
It is.
And yeah,
It's
it's great.
remarkable the layers of metaphor through the fire, but through the cars
Mhm.
and through the community. It's like, I love your page for that. But it's just the way everybody's coming together around it. And then also I really liked that idea of, you were like, that's a horrible ending to a story.
Yeah.
And now you're able, like, it's because the story's not over. You know what I mean? And just everything you're sharing with us today about what you're seeing, what you're documenting, who you're talking to, how people are coming together. It's like, it's very clear that it's like, oh, this is still being written. And it's the community's still there.
Yeah, and you know, like this podcast is part of that story, you know, because I know people will see this, right? And this story being told and me being able to tell this on behalf of Altadena and the car folks up there, right? And I always pray I do them justice and I respect them, right? It matters so much to me because they'll see me, really. No, it matters, you know, and that this story's not over with, you know, at all. And, you know, I was walking up the street. I see that it was an EV, right? It was tagged. It was burned first, took a photo of it. It was tagged, took a photo of it, flipped over, took a photo of it, and then gone. And left in the driveway was this negative gray space, right? And I kneeled down to take a photo of it. And I started like laughing to myself, not like that's so funny, but like, oh my God, I'm not done until that house is there and there's a new car there.
Yeah.
That's when I'm done. You know?
On that note, do you feel like the people who own the property still own their property? Do you feel like there's going to be some sort of like situation where a big VC company comes and like buys up at a huge discount and turns it into condos or like a golf course or something that doesn't really keep telling that story?
Yeah. So we already have 2 golf courses. So
Yeah.
thank goodness. That's good. The one golf course is like being used as a recycling plant right now for everything.
Really?
So that one will be ready in I don't know a while. But yeah, there is a lot of concern about who's buying up what, right? And God willing that, you know, the people who are working through that figure out a way to make sure that Altadena, the folks that lived there before the fire, can come back and live there again, right? Like, that's complicated, right? That's a lot. But there are people very active every single day working towards that goal.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, what's the situation like on the ground? Like, are people having trouble with insurance or anything like that? Like, what is as far as you can tell?
I
Yeah.
feel like you got to watch more news, Nolan.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a great question. It's like, you know, if you get an offender bender,
Thanks.
yeah.
I don't know.
If you get an offender bender, right?
Mhm.
It's hard enough, right?
Mhm.
Well, you use insurance and blah, 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 and they call me back, blah, blah, blah. So like whole town burns down, right? And you have a spectrum of issues, right? Of somebody being like, oh, I'm overinsured, I'm good. I'm overinsured, I got a ton of money in my GoFundMe, right? To like, I have a list of people whose like GoFundMe's never really got much, you know?
And
And
there's
like-
also, I don't want this to be a What's Wrong with the Country podcast, but there's so many houses I know where if you don't underinsure, then you're paying so much more in your property taxes because, you know, there's those different levels of the calculus of how to look out for yourself. And then when the unthinkable happens, it's, you know, there's no right way to have done it, you know, I think is what's so troubling.
Yeah, it's you know, I know some really brutal stories, right? You know, I walked this morning before I went up and did like a big walk. And I went by a woman's house, Marlene, and she had her house from the outside was like a Grey Gardens house, right? It was like garage there crumbling apart. But on the inside, she restored that meticulously.
Wow.
She bought it over 50 years ago with her brother and her dad. And when the earthquake came, like the Northridge one a while ago, like she couldn't afford insurance anymore. She would quit paying insurance.
Oh no.
But like a lot is massive, the whole thing, right? She lost a Bug and 2 vintage Jags. Her garage was like old school. It was 1917, the house, and like you would like fill up gas at the street and you could pump inside of the house, inside of the garage. Yeah. Old school. Yeah. I was like, and so that's all gone. Right. And I met her sitting in her house, like looking for stuff. Right. And I'm like, what are you going to do? She's like, I don't know. Right. And her house is being cleared, started yesterday and today. It's a big one. So it'll take a few days. There's a bunch of different stories, man. And like, it really, you know, you're like, I'm underinsured by, you know, 200,000, 250, 100. Right. And hopefully there'll be some gap that's going to come through and take care of those folks, you know, but nobody in Altadena wants to see it turn into something else. The hard thing is you can only build new homes too, right? You can't build an old house. And those homes are going to look new. Like that is what it is. Right. And
to different standards as well. Right. So like different material costs. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you could take
material costs.
Right. And for cars, you could take like car and make it look like that era. Right. But homes, you can't do that, you know? And, so yeah, it's complicated and it's deep, you know, and there are just, you know, there's people every day who are out there, like making sure their voices are heard. I know that there was a march, you know, yesterday, you know, making sure that their voices are heard on a continued basis. Wow. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a heavy one. I know you guys usually make jokes. You have a good time. I was going to come on. I'm like, am I the only one allowed to tell jokes? Like, how's this going to work with you guys? I feel so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was driving here. I was like, I don't get to be the only funny one today. This is amazing. Yeah, it's great. No, but yeah, I mean, there's but back to like just talk about Altadena Cars and Coffee, because it is like an amazing event. I have some really great stories on what's helpful, right? So I'll set this back that I had told about 5 or 6 stories, and I went out to the Palisades one day. A guy named Rick Botta brought me out there. He lost his home. And so I told these stories, and I thought, like, maybe these people all want to get together, right? And they're all car people. And so I said, hey, do you guys want to get together and have, like, a Cars and Coffee in Altadena? And they were like, okay, sure. And I was like, well, Unincorporated Coffee, it's at the top of Lincoln. I know those guys. Maybe they'll let me use their lot. They're about to reopen. And I'll get some cars to show up that aren't burned. And so I said, sure, right? And so 20 people, maybe 25. One guy showed up for a cup of coffee, had a nice ride. I was like, you're not leaving. Put that right there. And he was like, I only got 15 minutes. Like he was there for 2 hours, right? And so about 20 minutes into it, I don't know who it was. I wish they would tell me who it was. They're like, are we going to do this every week? And I was like, I was just going to wait for the lot to tell me what it wanted. And they were like, we want to do it every week. And I was like, cool. Boom. The birth of Altadena Cars and Coffee. And now we just went into week 13. And like I said, we had like probably 70 cars there this weekend. The week before, 100 cars, you know, and it just like grew and grew and grew. And now we moved it to the lot at the top of Lake, Bulgarini. And, but what's really great is that people could come together to share, right? There was a guy, he lost his 69 Camaro. He'd had it for 50 years. He bought it when he was 18 and he'd been married for 40, right? So that car had predated a lot of things in his life. Lost his home, lost his car. He just retired.
Oh no.
And he's living, you know, out in the Inland Empire. And he had no one to talk to, no one to da-da-da-da, right? So his wife finds my feed and says like, hey, my husband lost his Camaro. Do you want to talk to him? I was like, yeah, you know. So he connects with me and I was like, just show up to Cars and Coffee, right? So he just sees me and he's like, I got no one to talk to. No one to da. I was like, hey, meet Danny. Danny, come here. Da-da-da. Ken, come here. Da-da-da.
So you just pawned him off on another
Yeah. People who were smarter than me, you know, like more like hardcore car guys. Meet these guys, they lost their home and their cars, right? And then boom, boom, put them together. And when he leaves, he was like, that's the first time I don't feel alone, right? It's like, that's, you know, and even like Ed's story. Yeah, Dennis showed up at Cars and Coffee. He's like, you're Dave, right? And I was like, oh shit. And he was like, I lost these cars. I need some help. Will you, you know? So a guy showed up in a Grand National the other day at the end of Cars and Coffee. Like it was late. It was like 11:15 or something. He was like, I saw you at the Peterson with the donut
that's
event.
Cool.
You were talking to people, and I said, I knew I'd find you. He's like, I drove this Grand National out at 2:00 in the morning. And he came and told me a story. I was like, well, let me bring you back to your lot and let me tell your story. A guy that showed up on a motorcycle, same thing, right? Another guy, asked, like, does anybody have any stories? He had a right side 92 Civic hatchback, right? Half of it burned.
Whoa.
Luckily, it was right side, so the driver's side didn't burn on this case. That had been in American US. Yeah, so I'll go tell his story, and go to his house and see what it is.
It's like a two-faced car.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, I had a 92 Civic hatchback off the lot, so I saw that. It was a little personal.
Yeah. There was that the Paradise Fire a while ago.
Yeah.
And there's the Tacoma driving into the fire to like save animals or something. I can't remember what the story was, but it was pretty badly charred and it kind of looked like a marshmallow that had been like toasted.
Yeah.
But that thing was like cruising, and I think Toyota picked the story up.
Yeah,
and
they
were
did
like,
a thing up.
Oh,
with
that's
it.
cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up.
For anyone who didn't make it to our Peterson cruise-in in March, I think it was, Dave brought this melted out 911, and I think it was one of the most like busy attractions at our cruise-in.
Well, thanks for having me. So it was, I came the year before, right?
Okay.
And so I knew about it. Again, my son, a donut fan, so took him. And I knew the amount of people, everything. And then when it was coming up again, my son Holden's like, hey, Dad, the cruising's coming. And I was like, oh, really? And he was like, yeah. I was like, I should bring a car.
Yeah.
Like, we should get a, and I was going to bring 3 originally, right? So I looked up, signed up one car. I went through all of everything, right? And I was like, well, it doesn't say they can't be burned. And I was like, well, what would that look like? And how do we get it there? And like, it's not easy to move burned cars because they just don't drive very well. And so
how did you move it, by the way? Is it just like a crane?
No, we Max, who lost his house and his cars, and Carl, and we were like, wait, I'm at the pointing era of my career, and I'm gonna like, I'll go get sandwiches and beer era of this part. So they jacked it up, put wheel dollies underneath from like Freight Harbor, and then just screwed them in. The engine and the transmission was out at the time.
Yeah.
So it was way lighter.
Mm-hmm.
And because Carl always tools on his own cars, right? So it was super light. And I took a photo with ChatGPT and we defined the center of gravity on it.
What? You can do that?
I guess you can because it worked, right? So we got it in a way where you literally was like super light and was on was on wheels. And if you put a rope in the front, you could like walk it like a dog. And then Justin, his family has Metropolitan Pit Stop Museum in North Hollywood. He helped take out a Met. It was a Hudson that he helped take out, and I met him. Really low truck with a winch, right? So I asked him, so he brought it up and got a crew of guys, and we're able to bring it up on there. Wow. And at one point, like, we did reach out to the Peterson to be like, hey, we're going to bring a burn car. Can you help us with this? And they were cool. And you guys, they reached out to you. You guys were fine with it. And then remember when we showed up with it, they were like, oh, you can just put it in the elevator and we're going to put it through the museum. And we're like, it rolls, but I don't know. There's still like pieces. Yeah. But we were saying like, it was cleared by the EPA. It was like, there's no exhaust, there's no gas, there's no oil in it. It is like the cleanest car here at the meet today. And so he quickly realized that like, oh, that thing's not going through our museum. Right. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, you don't want this. And so the week before I'd come and scouted, right? Because last year at that event, there was an NSX that was parked, not in a parking spot, but up the stairwell on the south entrance, right? And it was parked out, but not in there. And I was like, well, if I can get my car here, everyone who walks down this way has to see it, right? And then I also want people to get a profile shot of the car, because if it's lined up with everything else,
it's hard to get.
That's gonna be hard. Yeah. So the week before I came, I took a picture, put a heart, meaning like I'm coming here next week and I'm gonna put the car here, right? Convinced. So I show up, and the guy, who was there that day, I was like, our truck was too high. It wouldn't go up the regular way, but I measured it the week before. I was like, well, if he goes up backwards, it'll fit. And he was like, oh, well, I guess you're right. So I had worked it all out, like psychopath. I wasn't going to let it go. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm bringing a car from Altadena to this thing. Like it's happening. So anyway, I mapped it out. It's going to boot here. And so we showed up and I was like, well, hey man, last year there was a car right here. Can we leave it here? And he was like, nah, it's not a spot. I was like, well, here's a photo from last year. It was a spot last year. And he was like, okay, man, just like make sure it's right here or whatever. Right. So I got the car there and they let us load in a day early, which was amazing because like we didn't also want to look like total idiots, like floating this burnt car. So it was there, and I put a giant tie-dye over top of it. And it rained that night too. It kind of sprinkled a little bit in the morning. I put this giant tie-dye that I'd made years ago over top of it. We call it the cloaking device. That way you couldn't see the car. And so we just kept it on there. At one point, I'm like, okay, we should unveil what we brought.
Yeah.
And we took it off. And there's a local artist named Nolan McCarthy, and he has a giant sign of all where the fires were in each of the houses. And he made a small one for us and
Wow.
had some signage so people could like wrap their head around what it was.
I see your Deadhead
Yeah.
hat. Are you in the tie-dye?
I'm in a recovering hippie. Yeah. I'm in recovery on hippie. So this hat, I wore it that day of the fire, right? And I don't think I've taken it off since. It's almost like my marathon or my playoff beard or whatever. And so this has got probably lead and asbestos and all the stuff you asked about earlier. It's in the hat. Yeah. If you wanted to sample that, you figure out
I'd
what's
love
in my
to smell
body.
it later.
Yeah, you can smell all you want. So anyway, but it was great to bring that car there, and I got a ton of attention. And one part kind of felt bad for everyone's nice cars that they were looking at the burnt one, but we'll take any attention.
Danny was there as well, right?
Danny was there. Yeah. He was there. Had a nice crew.
That's really cool.
But that was a big win for like everybody in Altadena, just so you know, like that car made it there.
Yeah.
It was massive, right?
Yeah.
And so like that is like I tell really tough stories, right? But I'm an optimist, and I can't doom and gloom my way through this, right?
No.
And I want to be there. And again, I respect that I didn't lose my home, my car is not that, right? So I respect that. But I want to be there for people on that side of it, right? To be able to give them something other than like, this sucks, because it does suck. That's unavoidable, right? It's going to take a minute for that town to get rebuilt, and I'll be there for all of it. But I just tried to that event and other things, that we've done and we're going to continue to do is like what I really hope to bring to Altadena and the car community, Pasadena and Altadena. Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, Dave, I think that's a good place to end. If people want to support you and your cause, where can they go?
My house. It's not_EV_Altadena, but pretty much if you put not_EV, it will pop up. And then also at Altadena Cars and Coffee.
Yeah.
Show up.
Go check out Altadena Cars and Coffee every Saturday.
Every Saturday, 8 to 10. The top of Lake Avenue in Altadena, Bulgarini is the place. It's a big Rite Aid there as well.
Bulgarini.
Giant lot. So come up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you'll meet some amazing people, see some great cars. By the way, I will say this, because of you, and I feel like you guys owe me some money. I just bought a 91 Miata.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. British Racing Green, special edition,
BRG.
50,000 miles.
Oh, that's
Wow.
great.
Second owner. So I'm super excited.
You got to talk to Jimmy.
Second
Jimmy will
owner.
tell you exactly what you need to look for,
Okay.
what you need to fix,
Okay.
what you need to not touch.
Okay. Well, I'm a purist. And he
Yeah.
put a stereo
Yeah.
in it, but he kept the original one. So my son's trying to get me to change the steering wheel. I don't know if I could do that.
That wooden steering wheel would be sick.
Hey,
Don't say that.
let's stop talking about
Oh,
giving
shit.
my steering wheel away.
Yeah, that's the one my son wants too. So don't say that. Don't watch this. That's not.
That one's too big, I
Yeah.
think. Too big for that car.
Yeah.
You want a
All right.
smaller one in the Miata. Dave, thank you so much for coming on the show and telling
you,
your story.
Dave.
Very
Thanks, guys.
harrowing, but
Appreciate
also love the optimism. I agree. I think that's kind of the only way to make it through is being optimistic. Yeah, so thank you guys for listening. Again, it's been Big 3. Follow Bart at BidsBart. Follow Joe at Joe G. Weber. Follow Dave, again, not_EV_Altadena. And follow me at Nolan J. Sykes if you'd like. Big thank you to our crew. We got Mark and John behind the lens today. And again, thank you for listening. We'll be back next week.
See you next week.